Good morning and welcome to the Morning Scoop for Monday, August 10th. This is your daily Buckeye fix. I'm Tom Orr. The Columbus Blue Jackets knocked off the Toronto Maple Leafs 3-0 last night to win their NHL qualifying round playoff series 3-2. It's the second time in a little over a year that the Jackets have advanced in the NHL playoffs, and the Columbus Crew announced plans over the weekend to return to action on August 20th. That is all great news, as it means there will definitely be a Columbus team playing sports in the near future, and as of Friday, it looked like Ohio State football was on track to be doing that as well. The Buckeyes were back on the practice field. The Big Ten had just set its updated schedule. Everything seemed to be moving in the right direction. And 3 days later, a lot has apparently changed. Buckeye Scoop's Marc Givler joins me this morning. Marc, what are you hearing about the Big Ten's 2020 football season right now?
Yeah, it's not trending in a good direction. It's bizarre how this thing kind of turned the last few days. And if we go back over the weekend, anyone who's on social media noticed that all of a sudden you have Trevor Lawrence and Ohio State players and Penn State players and players all over the country with this "we want to play" movement, and their parents releasing statements, and the Ohio State Parents Organization coming out with a statement, coaches kind of pushing for stuff, and that didn't just kind of that wasn't conjured out of thin air. It's strictly because at some point over the weekend this started going off the rails here. And I think a lot of parents, I think a lot of players, and I think a lot of college coaches feel they've been lied to by leadership, at the conference level. I'm not even so sure at the administrative level at Ohio State. I've not talked to one person who's holding this against Gene Smith. I've not really talked to one person who's holding this against anyone at Ohio State. They weren't even included in that, that reported Saturday conference calls. So there's a lot going on here, and none of it sounds very good.
I mean, you've touched on the social media element for this weekend, and it's very interesting because you had Ohio State players, coaches, families all on social media this weekend talking about how they want to play. Just you scroll through the Ohio State football official account. So this is the school's official position from their PR folks. They are retweeting Corey Teague's dad, or Master Teague's dad, Justin Fields saying, "We want to play." Jeremy Ruckert saying, "No safer place to be. I'm trying to play." Chris Olave, "We want to play." Pete Werner, "We want to play." Seven Banks, "I've put so much work into the season. We want to play." Master Teague, "If people went through the hours on hours of physical, mental, and consistent hard work that us athletes go through, you'd want to have a season. Let's have a season." Roger Mitchell, "We want to play." Jonathan Cooper, "Looking back at all the work I've put in through the years and seeing my senior year gone to injury and now seeing all of this stuff going on, I want a season to show everyone the player I am and have the senior year I earned and worked for." This is all stuff that the Ohio State football account, run by the school, run by the program, is retweeting. And I know that retweets do not always equal endorsements, but it sure feels like retweets are equaling endorsements here. So if everyone at Ohio State wants to play, what is it that's driving this decision to potentially shut things down as soon as today?
Well, I've been skeptical of this for several months, and maybe I've annoyed people with my skepticism on this. And it's not me overlooking what's going on in the country right now with the coronavirus. That's never been my intention, is to downplay the severity of it, and to put myself in a situation where it looks like I'm saying it's not a big deal, or it shouldn't be taken seriously. That's not been the thing. My problem has been, yes, this is a serious thing that we have to take precautions with, but the NCAA has been very disingenuous with this in terms of trying to cloak this as all in the name of player safety. This is not in the name of player safety. It's never been about player safety. This is about liability and amateurism. This is about not getting sued and continuing really the facade that college football is still amateur athletics, because it hasn't been for a really long time by any real objective measure. So now I don't think it's ironic. I don't think it's a coincidence that the same week, essentially, that you have some organizing going on with the Pac-12 and the Big Ten players kind of forming coalitions and releasing statements, that all of a sudden, well, maybe we're not playing football. And there's no doubt in my mind that these things are linked. It goes back to amateurism, and I think the NCAA and its higher ups at the university level, the presidents, things like that, are terrified that college players are going to organize. And I've got some news for them. If they're playing the long game here on this with the amateurism thing, leading players, parents, coaches along for 3 months and having them jump through all these hoops only to come completely out of left field at the last minute and pull the rug out from under them, that's not going to bode well for long-term trust between all these parties, and that's not going to bode well for them in the future when other issues of labor and are they employees and things like that arise. I can tell you that right now. I mean, this was not well thought out to do it at this stage. This was something that needed to be done 2 or 3 months ago, or they needed to let fall camp play out and have a valid reason of, hey, this is just the protocols we've put into place just aren't working and we've got to pull the plug. But neither of those things have happened. They've made these players jump through all these hoops, and they all feel like they've been lied to. I've been talking to parents, all day Sunday. Everyone feels lied to. That they've been led to believe that this was all, that if they listen to the protocols, if they put in stringent testing, if they jump through all these hoops, that they'd have an opportunity to go through fall camp, and that if they could do that safely, that they'd have an opportunity to play their season. And now they're not getting that opportunity if this continues to go in the direction that it's going.
You touched on it there, but the timing of this just seems absolutely bizarre and completely inexplicable based on what will presumably be the stated reasons for delaying till the spring or canceling a season. It was last Tuesday or Wednesday, I think Wednesday, that they just set a schedule for the fall. They just announced a schedule. They started teams practicing. Ohio State started practicing on Thursday. What has changed between last Wednesday and today that has gone from we are confident enough in the season that we're going to set a schedule and we're going to start practice, and now all of a sudden you're potentially on the verge of pulling the plug? There have not been, there have been outbreaks on teams. Rutgers had an outbreak. Michigan State had an outbreak. It came out, I think, over the weekend that the shutdown at Northwestern was actually caused by a false positive test, so they were going to be able to go back to action because it turned out they were not having an issue. So what has changed from last Wednesday or last Thursday to today to go from full, moving forward, everyone's comfortable, to nope, it's time to shut it down?
Is that a rhetorical question?
Sometimes I ask questions just to set up the guest to talk about something.
I mean,
I am asking this question because I don't know the answer to that question, and I sure would be interested in finding out the answer. And I don't know if Kevin Warren, the Big Ten's new commissioner, is going to be in a mood to answer any sort of question like that, or if it gets asked, to actually answer it.
Well, the answer is something they'll never say, and that is what changed is their level of fear that the players were going to organize. That's the only thing that's changed in the last 5 or 6 days, because we've seen the statements from the Pac-10 or from the Pac-12 Players Coalition, from the Big Ten Players Coalition. That's all that's changed. So I'm going to be fascinated as anyone to see how they try to explain this away. And I'm going to be really fascinated to see how they are going to square, again, and maybe they'll pull the ripcord on students on campus as well. But I would love to see these schools try to square. It's unsafe for players to be around other students and to be around other people and to transmit this. So we can't have fall sports, but we will gladly take your whatever it is now, $20,000 a year for your room and board as a student to house you on campus this fall. I would love to see them square those two ideas.
Yeah, I mean, I tweeted something.
And I hope someone asked that, and maybe I'll have an opportunity to ask it, but memo memo to Buckeye Scoop staff. Please ask them, whichever one of us is in the position. Please ask this if it doesn't get asked, because I would love to see them try if that's what happens here. Because I've already talked to several soon-to-be students who are talking about moving in next week.
Yeah, I tweeted something very, very close to those, close to those lines. That these are players who you're concerned that it will not be safe for them to compete when the protocol was going to have them tested potentially 2 to 3 times a week. They're largely siloed in the Woody Hayes facility and their apartments anyway. They are, of all the students on campus, the most motivated to keep themselves away from other people. They have gotten the most training, the most information about how to keep themselves safe. They're being put in the best possible position to keep themselves safe. If with all of that, you can't trust that with 3 weekly tests that they can be safe to be in the around other students and to be around students from another school who are also our football players, then that it sure doesn't seem like that would be in line with bringing students back to campus. But when I tweeted that on Saturday, I had a few people say, well, just wait till the deadline for the tuition checks to clear, boy, that would be a cynical take on things, but I guess we'll find out if it's also the real take pretty soon. The next question is, so does this make football players safer? Or if football players are no longer, driven by the fact that, hey, there's a game coming up in 20-something days, or hey, there's a game coming up on Saturday, I can't, I'm not going to go out to the bars, I'm not going to go out to a party, I'm not going to do anything silly. I'm not going to behave like a typical college student because I know I have to take all of these extra precautions to stay safe. If you don't have that for them anymore to, sort of be the carrot that keeps them, on the straight and narrow this fall, are college football players now more or less safe than they were before? Are they more or less safe now than they would be if there was actually a season?
They're absolutely less safe in terms of contracting and being harmed by the virus. Now, they're probably more physically safe because that's roughly 300 or 400 fewer car wrecks they're going to get into with not playing football. So brain safer. We're not even talking about that. I mean, this is beyond bizarre. I mean, they were in a great situation in terms of, was it an official bubble? No, it was damn near a bubble, what they had set up. And if they just applied a little bit of personal responsibility, which they were incentivized to do because a lot of these kids have dreams of playing in the NFL and they all want to stay healthy. They may have dreams of a national championship this year. The incentives are gone. They're not going to, these 18 to 22-year-olds are not going to quarantine in their homes for the next 6 months. They're just not. Their days are planned almost to the minute when they are in season. Everything is planned almost to the minute. It is really difficult, and this has been strategic for years. And Urban Meyer really brought this to Ohio State, where his philosophy was keep them in your grasps from the first time, from the minute they wake up until the minute their head hits the pillow, make them so tired with meetings and classes and tutors and lifting and film and everything else, make them so tired that by the end of the day, all they want to do is sleep. They don't want to go out and get in trouble at the bars and things like that. And you're taking that structure away from them. You're taking that supervision away from them. To me, it's insane, but, here we are. And, God, there are so many directions I could go right now. Another thing, a colossal shift in college football in college athletics the last maybe 10 years. Like, talk to someone who was at Ohio State or any big time program like in the early 2000s, and then talk to someone who was at Ohio State or Notre Dame or Michigan, in the last 7-8 years. They had drastically different experience because there's been a movement in the last 10 years to centralize all the athletes. All the athletic buildings are being built in the same damn parking campus. They're keeping them there all day, whether it's meetings, tutors, whatever. All their stuff is in one spot. They have strategically, over the last 10 years, done everything in their power to isolate these student athletes from the rest of the regular student population. And so now, and for me, that's been to their detriment because I think they should have a college experience like a student. So I've railed against that. But now you're in a situation where 10 years of deceitful planning of this has actually, come into a situation where, this could actually be useful now that they're all isolated out there on off of Lane Avenue, and they don't know what to do all of a sudden. I don't know how we can accomplish this. I don't know how we can keep them isolated. Well, you've been planning it for 10 years. You've been doing everything in your power for 10 years to isolate the football, basketball, wrestling teams from the rest of the student body. And now that there's actually some value in them being isolated from the rest of the student body, you're saying you can't do that? I mean, that's, to me, isn't just, the hypocrisy is insane on this one. It's crazy to me.
Well, this is obviously going to be a story we are following quite a bit this week and throughout the day, especially today on BuckeyeScoop.com. We'll have a bunch on the Big Ten's decision whenever it does officially come down. And, I think the early returns are that the Big Ten will probably not be the only conference making a decision like this in the short term. So we will have a bunch on all of that when that all does come down. And there will also be plenty of time this week to break down exactly what this could mean for the next time an Ohio State team steps on the field. Players potentially leaving for the NFL. And we'll dive into all of that, I'm sure, later on this week. So, Marc, thank you for joining me this morning. And once again, hey, good news. The Blue Jackets won. That was exciting. That was great. So you'll get go Jackets. Yes, you'll have more hockey to watch. So great news, friends. It's a Monday morning. Thank you guys for listening. We really appreciate you sticking with us. And we will have a whole bunch more for you today at Buckeye Scoop. Much of our content at Buckeye Scoop is, of course, free and outside the paywall, so you'll want to just check that all out at BuckeyeScoop.com today. Thank you guys for listening. We will talk to you tomorrow.